Okay, hi everyone. So today is so basically this is the last chapter for our course. Okay, so it is a chapter on question documents. Okay, so we want to see on at the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe what is the handwriting examination. How do we examine the handwriting exemplars, and then how do we do ink analysis, and also how do we conduct paper analysis. Alright, so everything is being related to the question documents. Alright, so now let's look at a couple of definitions. Okay, so document examination is a form of forensic science where we do analysis of handwriting as well as the detection of forged documents. Okay, forged documents ni apa-apa dokumen yang kita detect sama ada dia dipalsukan. Okay, so kita panggil these forged documents question documents as well. Okay, so question documents is any signature, any handwriting, any typewriting, or even any written mark which the source of authenticity is in dispute ataupun uncertain. Okay, kita suspect yang this document has been forged ataupun this document ada some penipuan yang berlaku. So all of this we call is question documents, where it can be checks ke certificates ke wills, passport, licenses, money. Okay, so all of these are question documents. So tugas kita sebagai forensic scientist is to ensure to do the handwriting analysis, even the ink analysis, and even the paper analysis to ensure that the document is being forged ataupun tidak. Okay, so let's look into what are the characteristics that we are looking at. Okay, so a document expert is different from graphologist. Okay, graphologist ni apa? Graphologist ni adalah person who study the personality of the writer based on the handwriting samples. So graphologist ni bila dia tengok penulisan seseorang itu, dia boleh mengatakan, okay, apakah personality orang itu. Tetapi kita sebagai forensic scientist, kita tidak tengok kepada personality dia. Okay, we are not studying the personality. Okay, we are studying the characteristic of the in this case kalau document kita kata characteristic of the letters itself, cara penulisan. Cara penulisan means that apa-apa the pen pressure, the ink concentration, okay, all of those things yang ada on the paper rather than we we come out with the personality orang itu okay ataupun tidak, which is not in the field of forensic science. Alright, okay. So everyone's handwriting exhibit a natural variation. Okay, setiap seorang antara kita ini ada cara penulisan yang tersendiri. Okay, ada some people would like to use pen, some people like to use pencil, or even marker, or even crayon. So all of these different writing instruments would affect our handwriting. Okay, kalau crayon you will be able to see that crayon dia punya mata crayon tu is a bit large as compared to pen. So this variation akan affect our handwriting. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is about our mood. Okay, kita punya perasaan at that time of writing. An angry person might put more pressure on dia punya penulisan. Okay, the third one is our age. Our age as well would affect our writing skills. Okay, as for example, kalau kita masih lagi in the kanak-kanak ataupun teenagers, maybe our handwriting is berbeza daripada kita during an adult ataupun waktu kita dah tua nanti. So our writing akan ada variation tertentu towards our age. Okay, and then the last one is how rush are you when you are writing it. Okay, how hurried we are. The relaxed person will have a better handwriting than a hurried person. Okay, so all of these factors would induce a natural variation which will lead to individualization. Okay, so all of this kita panggil macam unique handwriting skills lah. So kita boleh detect seseorang itu apakah cara penulisan dia based on dia punya karakteristik yang kita akan discuss kejap lagi. Okay, alright. So there are three major categories if you want to look at on characteristic of each person's handwriting. So the first one is letter form. The second one is line form, and the third one is the formatting. Okay, when we look at letter form, okay, letter form is the size consistency, the size of each of the letter itself. Okay, daripada huruf besar ke huruf besar, sama ada huruf besar nombor 1 dan huruf besar nombor 2, adakah konsisten dia punya ratio. Okay, the size consistency sama ada huruf-huruf kecil di dalam penulisan dia itu adakah sama. Okay, the letters complete ataupun tidak. So contohnya yang selalu tidak complete adalah huruf F dan juga huruf E. Okay, so some people would have the characteristics of never completing their E's and F's. Okay, some people akan complete dia punya E and complete dia punya F's. Okay, cursive and printed letters. Cursive and printed letters ni ada setengah orang suka tulis sambung-sambung. Ada setengah orang suka tulis satu-satu. Okay, so ada setengah orang juga di-combine all of that. So we will look into this characteristics lah. Kita tengok contoh-contoh selepas ini. Fancy curls ataupun loops. Fancy curls ataupun loops ni ada setengah orang dia suka tulis fancy. Maksudnya ada contohnya huruf F, for example, ada echo terlebih-lebih for the F punya tu. Okay, so all of these characteristics kita lead, as I mentioned before, lead to individualization. Okay, that is in terms of letter form. How about line form? Line form ni kita tengok dia punya line lah. In each of the letters kan ada line. Ada contohnya huruf D. Okay, the loop of the D itself and then the line. Okay, so we are going to look at the pen pressure. Ada setengah orang pen pressure bila kita menaik ke atas, dia pen pressure dia tinggi, tapi bila dia menurun ke bawah, pen pressure dia rendah. Alright, so we will look into different intensity of the ink itself. Okay, line quality, even line habit pun, if it is in line paper, kertas yang ada line, some people would make sure that dia punya penulisan is on top of the line. Ada setengah orang akan turun ke bawah of the line, ada setengah orang akan menaik daripada line. Ataupun ada setengah orang memang dia suka duduk di tengah-tengah line space itu. So all of this, as I mentioned juga ke dalam letter form, it leads to individualization. Formatting, spacing between words and spacing between letters itself. Okay, placement of crosses on the T's and the dots on the I's. So this kan huruf T ada stroke kan di tengah. So some people might stroke in the middle, some people might stroke more towards the upward punya position. Okay, dots on the I's also. It depends. Okay. Continuous and connecting letters. So ada setengah orang suka tulis continuous. Ada setengah orang dia suka connect letters between letters. Alright, so now we are going to look at into each of the characteristics. Okay, size consistency. So now we are going to look at the right of the people. For example, kita tengok perkataan ni, the right of the people. Okay, so you would see whether there is consistency. For example, kalau you tengok R ini, huruf R besar. Okay, the first one, the second one might look the same. Okay, tapi usually you need to measure lah. You need to measure in terms of berapakah ketinggian R ini dan berapakah ketinggian R ini. Sama ada both R's dia consistent tak in terms of the ratio. R yang last ni kita tengok R dia lebih tinggi. Even yang R ini kalau you tengok dia terlebih pula echo dia on here. So this leads to individualization. Maybe the first two ni adalah the same people, the same person, but the last one is not the same person. Okay, maybe dia nak meniru. Even F ni pun kalau you tengok it is not complete. E ni pun tidak complete. Okay, so this the size consistency dulu kita tengok. The size consistency of each of the each of the sentences. Okay, usually dalam document examination ataupun exam plus ini, the people ataupun the suspected people, kita akan minta dia ulang perkataan ataupun ayat yang sama sebanyak 5 hingga 10 kali lah, untuk make sure that we want to see the variation. Okay, so because that person would exhibit the same variation daripada 5 hingga 10 ayat itu. Okay, alright. So letters complete. This is what I mentioned. Letters complete. If you see the first sentences and the second sentence here, the night of the people. So E here tak complete on the second one. Okay, F here pun tak complete. So this is might be the different people, different person. Okay. Cursive or printed letters. This the first one is cursive. The second one is printed. The third one is the combination of cursive and printed letters. Okay. So we want to see apa kalau yang ni you would see, okay, F this is quite extravagant kan. So F kalau yang bahagian printed memang kita nampak F macam itu saja, straight away F. Alright. Alright. Slant. Slant ni some people might slant forward, some people might slant backwards, left, right, ataupun some people might have variation dalam dia punya slanting punya tu. So this is what you will be able to measure lah. Okay. Fancy curls or loops. This is what I mentioned before. Apa? Contohnya my. Okay. This is quite fancy lah. Ada terlebih pula kat sini. Alright. Okay, pen pressure. Pen pressure, as I mentioned, the first one is the pen pressure is quite consistent. Okay, the second one is quite consistent as well, but the pen pressure is less lah here. But the third one is the combination of different kind of pen pressure. Okay, ada yang low pen pressure, ada yang high pen pressure. Okay, line quality. Line quality ni whether the letters flowing nicely ataupun erratic ataupun shaky. The second one we will see the forensic science here. The second type here. Alright. Line habit, as I mentioned before, kita akan tengok sama ada kalau it is on a line paper, it is straight on the line, ataupun ada setengah tu dia akan down words leave baseline below it ataupun naik daripada baseline. Okay. Spacing also, ada setengah orang spacing dia lebih besar daripada setengah orang yang lain. So this spacing would create individualization as well. Okay. Alright, formatting. Formatting in terms of the crosses on the T's and the dots on the I's. Alright. So the T's cross to maybe in the middle ke toward the top or toward the bottom. The cross on the T's. Okay, the dots on the I sama ada the dot tu either at the bottom ke towards the right ataupun the center ataupun ke kiri ke kanan ke. So all of this kalau dia ulang 5 hingga 10 kali, we will see the different kind of variation and we will see the consistency dalam dia punya dia punya the T's and the I's. So you as a question document ataupun forensic scientist punya expert, you need to be able, kalau you buat you buat question document and you want them to repeat it 5 to 10 times, you need to be able to create some sort like sentences which will ensure that you will be able to determine all of these characteristics. So make sure that dalam you punya ayat tu mesti ada T, mesti ada huruf I. Mesti perkataan tu ada panjang sikit, ada pendek sikit. We want to see the spacing as well. Okay, so based on these characteristics, you should be able to create a sentence for you to be able to determine all of these characteristics. Okay, alright. So continuous. Continuous, we will see, okay, ada setengah orang dia continuous forensic science. Ada setengah orang dia akan F, tapi dia disconnected on the O here. Okay, and disconnected on the S here. So because some people would take up their pen, okay, daripada satu huruf kepada satu huruf, dia akan angkat pen dia, which will lead to disconnection. Okay, it is not continuous. Okay, so all of this angkat pen ataupun it is just that for you to be straight away continuous writing, which will lead to individualization. Okay, connecting letters. Okay, So all of this, so there are three basic steps lah whenever that you are analyzing a handwriting sample. So firstly, the question documents, we need to be able to get the standard, which is exam plus. Okay, standard ni is always examined with detectable characteristics. So that's why I said whenever that you are creating a sentence, you need to be able to ensure that you can detect all of these characteristics. Mesti kena ada T, mesti kena ada I, mesti kena ada huruf panjang, mesti kena ada huruf pendek. Perkataan panjang dan pendek lah. So huruf E, huruf F, so all of this something yang you can ensure that you will be able to see whether it is complete or not complete. Okay? So obtaining a standard may require a suspected author to write a sample for the investigation under supervision. Okay, so usually kita akan supervise dia, maksudnya dia tidak ada dia tidak boleh nak fikir sama ada okay aku nak tulis macam ni lah, nak tulis differently. Okay, usually it is under supervision, tetapi if dia try untuk tulis differently pun, because it is not in their habit of writing it differently, we will see it variation. Okay, mungkin ayat pertama dia akan tulis differently, ayat kedua, ayat ketiga dia dah mungkin dia boleh tulis lagi different, tapi mungkin bila towards the 5th line ataupun the 10th line, you would see a different kind of variation, because dia dah penat dah nak tulis, dia pun dah tak ingat dah macam mana nak tulis secara yang dia nak tipu tu. All of that will go back to the natural habit of the handwriting. Okay, so the characteristic of the question documents are compared with the known standard. Okay, when we are analyzing the standard, we know on the characteristic of the suspected person, and then we compare it to the question documents. Okay, all right. Finally, the expert will be able to evaluate atau determine the characteristics of the of the question documents. Hence, we can draw a conclusion about the authenticity and the authorship of the question document. So, bila kita tengok question standards itu, maybe for example lah, just a simple example, cara penulisan dia, of course, dia tidak akan complete dia punya E. Kalau kita tengok tak complete dia punya E, tak complete dia punya Fs, but on our question documents, the E is complete, the F is complete. So basically now we can draw a conclusion that this person is not the author of the question document. Okay? All right. The shortcomings of handwriting analysis, of course, this handwriting analysis is quite, kita panggil class characteristics juga. Even though it leads to individualization, but it is not as individualization as DNA. Okay, because we have variations. Okay, the quality of the standards, as I mentioned, kalau dia if the suspect for the whole 5 to 10 lines, dia is consistent with their cara penulisan yang tidak betul, then we will not be able to get a good conclusion out of it lah. So inadequate characteristics of the exemplar will also limit the ability for comparison. So that's why when you are trying to form a sentence for them to be able to do the exemplars, you need to be able to create a sentence which exhibits all of the characteristics yang you nak determine later on. Okay, so another limitations also is the mood, the age, sama ada orang tu ada pakai drugs ataupun tidak, which everything that can affect dia punya handwriting. Okay, alright. So that is the shortcomings of handwriting analysis, but nonetheless we can use handwriting analysis for individualization purposes lah. Okay, okay. So that is all for document examination. So document is closely related to ink as well. Okay, ink analysis. Okay, now we are going to look into ink. Okay, so although all blue and black inks might look the same, kita tengok, okay, semua color pen biru and semua color pen hitam, semua kita nampak sama. Tetapi the chemical composition is going to be different because each manufacturers of the pen have their own recipe for their ink. Okay, so all of these different kind of chemical composition of inks will lead to individualization whenever that we are analyzing the question documents. Okay, so how are we going to determine whether this ink is the same ink from the same company from the same pen ataupun different pen? Okay, different ink lah. We are going to look at the different kind of analysis here. So the first one is the non-destructive. So as I mentioned before, for forensic evidence exhibits, usually we will do a non-destructive analysis first if it is possible. Okay, so kalau untuk DNA of course lah tidak kan. Tetapi kalau untuk ink analysis ataupun paper nanti pun kita akan tengok the non-destructive dahulu sebelum kita do the destructive one. Okay, so non-destructive analysis of documents under the microscope. We want to look at under the microscope, which is to look at the ink itself, and also using a video spectral comparator is an advanced instrument which we can analyze the ink, whether it is the same ink ataupun different ink, because of different composition of the inks might lead to different kind of absorption. Okay, we will look at this later on. The destructive one is we want to know, we will look at it using TLC, thin layer chromatography. Okay, which will be able to identify the chemical composition. Okay, so thin layer chromatography, I believe that you have learned this in your analytical classes. All right, so it is a qualitative analysis. Okay, mostly for the different kind of composition in the ink itself. Okay, I would not be able to saya takkanlah nak apa ni I will not recap back on how for you to do the TLC. I'm sure that you have learned this before, but ink can be used as one of the analytes for TLC. Okay, so TLC, as you know that all of the composition dekat dalam ink itu will be separated into its individual parts. Okay, some samples are placed on the material that carries the very various components of the ink into a different distances dekat dalam plate itulah, TLC plate itu. Right, due to the different polarities. Right. Okay, so TLC. Okay. Video spectral comparator VSC also can be used to be able for you to be able to look at the ink, whether it's the same ink ataupun different ink. Okay, because two kind of different inks would respond differently towards the VSC. Okay, so you'll be able, for example, you can look at this check. Okay, so this 9, the number 9 and the number 0 here, under the VSC, we can see that they are using two kind of different inks. Okay, satu hitam, satu putih. Alright, under the VSC, we'll be able to look at the inks under the VSC because it provide lighting conditions where the wavelength has been absorbed ataupun tidak by the ink. So now we look at this, so we can straight away draw a conclusion that okay, this 9 is being ditulis menggunakan pen yang berbeza daripada kosong ini. So it means that it is a forged document. Okay, alright, but it will need to undergo some, okay, kita bagi tahu yang okay, there is a possibility of it's being forged. Okay, so then there are other type of investigation as well will be followed on. Maybe for example 9 ni dia kata, oh 9 ni saya guna pen lain, kosong ni saya guna pen lain sebab 9 ni tiba-tiba pen dia dah habis, ink dah habis, something like that. Okay, so that we can say that okay, it is used a different kind of inks, tetapi a lot of investigation will be followed up lah after this. Alright. So this technique can uncover layers in documents where words have been scribbled out ataupun written over. Alright? Okay. Okay. So that's all for ink analysis. So now we are going to look at paper analysis. Right. Paper analysis, we are going to look at into dia punya raw material first. Alright, raw material, which is the chemical makeup of the paper. So this is are you going to use more towards the destructive methods lah, because you are going to look at the chemical part. Okay, the weight, the density, the thickness of the paper using a micrometer, even the color, the watermarks, because some paper manufacturers might have different composition and might have dia punya signature on it lah, bukan signature as in signature. It is maybe the kalau ada watermark ke yang mana kita memang tak nampak, tapi it is this kind of characteristic will lead to the manufacturer. Okay, the age of it, the fluorescence under the ultraviolet light. Okay, so all of this is for paper analysis. Okay, all right. So basically, for this chapter, you have looked at into handwriting analysis, ink analysis, and also paper analysis. All right. All right. That's all for our last chapter. Thank you.